Hello again. There we go. I know. Thank you. My name is Kim Diana Connolly. Some of you know me as the mama to Tate and Simon. We have been members since 2010. I want to tell you about the way that I've been living my faith this week. I am wearing a Create Climate Justice, which is a UU t-shirt, and I have been working at resisting this week by writing comments about an EPA rule that's seeking to roll back climate change protections that were put into place in 2009 based on science. And was just this week, the National Academy of Science has said, a nonpartisan group said, this is still not just good but excellent science. We've proven it since 2009 again and again. It's not too late. The regulations comments are due tomorrow, and anyone can comment. So if you'd like to go and say, let's keep the rules that are based on science, you don't have to write all the things with all the citations and footnotes that I wrote, because I'm a lawyer. You can just write from your heart, based on your faith or your beliefs. You submit all comments at regulations.gov, and if you search, if you want to know what to put in your comments, you can either find me at coffee hour, or you can go to the League of Conservation Voters, which has a very good guideline on how to comment on these things called the endangerment finding, saying that climate change is endangering people and we need to control for it. So, sorry, I did a little thing, because I get to say my areas of service, and I've been serving our faith by working on climate justice this week. For those gathered in the chapel, I urge you to actually turn off your phone, or don't turn off my phone, but I always put it before time to airport mode. But turning off is even better. I like to sometimes take pictures. But just turning off. This frees up bandwidth. It's kind of iffy and our live stream people, if we've got live stream people, I hope we do, our Wi-Fi is wobbly, so we want to give them a full experience. If you're here and you need extra hearing support, you know what? We have hearing devices at the back. You can go to the usher station at the back of the chapel and borrow one for the service. Our gathering music can be found in the gray hymnal, the big one, 396, I Know This Rose Will Open. The lyrics will also be projected, or are also projected up front, so let's rise in body and spirit and embrace the day. And Reverend Michelle will lead us.
So we're going to sing it all together twice, and then we're going to sing it as a round twice. We're going to sing it as a round twice. You may be seated.
As we gather, we employ the elements of water and fire to create this sacred space where we can be fully present. We begin with an acknowledgement that our church is built on holy ground, land that was nurtured and cultivated most recently by the Haudenosaunee, and we offer this libation as our giveaway as we honor the struggle of all people seeking justice and peace. And we seek the courage and wisdom to heal the wounds of the past and to build a better future story with all our neighbors, all our fellow creatures, all together. It is also our custom when we gather to light a chalice. A chalice is a vessel which symbolizes Unitarian Universalism in the gathered community, and also the community that's gathering across the country, across the world on Sunday, and also our ancestors, our descendants, and the people we're walking, journeying shoulder to shoulder with right now. And the flame represents the spark that each one of us brings to represent the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of our commitment to make for a more just and caring world. So thank you, Phil, for lighting. Appreciate everything. So in unison, we gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope to sign our quest for the truth and meaning and celebration of the life we share together. And each week, we make time in the service to acknowledge the joys and concerns, the sorrows, the disappointments, the satisfactions, the points of pride, everything that we bring with us, affirming that all we can be held within this container of love. And we give this expression by placing a stone or a shell on one of the table labyrinths. There's one right here, there's another back there. And this is your invitation to bring your whole self as the music plays. So I invite you. And I'll place a final stone in recognition of the joys and sorrows of those who are here in our hearts but not present, and also the joys and sorrows that we're holding in our hearts that are unspoken but no less keenly felt. Can we share a few breaths as we expand our circle to include those who might not be present, but who, as we say, we carry in our hearts? And so we bring into our circle of love and care all those who are ill, all those who are in pain, be it pain of the body, the spirit, the mind. All who are lonely. All who are overwhelmed, feeling lost. All who have been wronged. We hold in our hearts those who've been impacted by violence this week. May our hearts remain tender, even when we would create a wall around them. May we continue to find hope in the goodness of life and the source of love. Sometimes affirming our place in the web is a great comfort, and other times it will break our hearts. May we find the strength, peace, and courage to carry on. Amen, and blessed be.
We're going to have the Wonder Box right now. It's because Grumpy and I both have control over. Sorry, Grumpy is also known as Les Buhite, who is our technician, except when he's disguised as Grumpy. I chose his name for the grandchildren to learn. For those of you who don't know, he's my husband. All righty. All right. Woo. How exciting. It's Wonderbox time. Okay, well, I wonder who I'll find in the Wonderbox. Wait a minute. Who? Shouldn't I say what? No, it's who, because it's Jeffrey. It's my friend Jeffrey. Hello, Jeffrey. Hello, Reverend Michelle. I'm so glad to be here again. Hi, children. I'm so happy to see you, too. Are you happy to see me? If you're... I think that that is self-evident as to what I am. Thank you. Thank you for asking. It's going to be all revealed soon. Okay? Yes, thank you. So, I think my identity is obvious. Owie, that coughs. But my personality might not be. My personality is what makes me different from all the other animals like me. Do you know what kind of animal I am? What am I? I'm a porcupine. Hi, Abby. It's good to see you. Hey, sweetie pie. She's like, I don't have to deal with that. So I came today to talk to Reverend Michelle because we have something very important to think about. And just what is that? Jeffrey, did you go to look at Reverend Bobby's notes while I was not looking at you? Oh no, I would never do that. No, never, never, never. But I did notice that the title of today's talk is about loneliness. And I don't think there could be anyone lonelier than a porcupine. Oh, I carry so much sadness in my heart because people don't understand that just because I have quills, that I'm not always prickly. Not always. And so sometimes when my friends go out, they don't include me. And I feel very lonely about that. But then I remember how much I'm loved. And then I'm not so lonely anymore. Do you think Reverend Bobby still needs to do the sermon? I think I did a pretty good job. I think you did an amazing job, and your quills are very soft today, so I don't think you should be lonely at all. Perhaps you can go to faith development with the children. Would you like that? I would love that so much. Sorry, I sounded just like you then. Okay, so how about we sing our children off to their activities? You want to take Jeffrey? Okay. Go.
Our reading today is by Irish poet David White. It's called Loneliness. Loneliness is the doorway to unspecified desire. In the bodily pain of aloneness is the first step to understanding how far we are from a real friendship, from a proper work, or a long-sought love. Loneliness can be a prison, a place from which we look out at the world we cannot inhabit. Loneliness can be a bodily ache and a penance. But loneliness, fully inhabited, also becomes the voice that asks and calls for that great unknown someone or something else we want to call our own. Loneliness is the very state that births the courage to continue calling, and when fully lived, can undergo its own beautiful reversal, becoming in its consummation the far horizon that answers back. In the grand scale of things, loneliness is a privilege. Human beings may have the ability to feel aloneness as no other creature can, with a power magnified by intelligence and imagination. Animals may feel alone in an instinctual way, moving naturally and affectionately toward others of their kind. But human beings may be the only beings that can articulate, imagine, or call for a specific life they feel they might be missing. To allow ourselves to feel fully alone is to allow ourselves to understand the particular nature of our solitary incarnation. To feel alone is to face the truth of our irremediable and unutterable singularity. But a singularity that can kiss, create a conversation, make a vow, or forge a shared life. In the world or community, this essential singularity joins with others through vision, intellect, and ideas to make a society. Loneliness is the place from which we pay real attention to voices other than our own. Being alone allows us to find the healing power in the other. The shortest line in the briefest email can heal, embolden, welcome home, and enliven the most isolated identity. Human beings are made to belong. Loneliness is the single malt taste of the very essentiality that makes conscious belonging possible. The doorway is closer than we think. I feel alone, therefore I belong.
I'm the Reverend Bobby Lavallee, and thank you so much for having me back. I love preaching in this pulpit and being part of this lovely community of faith. Really inspiring all the time. So here's a fascinating fact from the Surgeon General's report in 2023 entitled, "Our Epidemic of Loneliness and Isolation." And I'm referring to the Surgeon General Vivek Murthy, who was an appointee of President Biden at the time, although he served under President Obama and the current president during his first term. And you may be wondering why the Surgeon General, who is a medical doctor, is putting out a report on something that seems more like the squishy realms of feelings or social interaction. Well, here's a quote from this report. "Loneliness is far more than just a bad feeling. It harms both individual and societal health. It is associated with a greater risk of cardiovascular disease, dementia, stroke, depression, anxiety, and premature death. The mortality impact of being socially disconnected is similar to that caused by smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day." Good Lord. Has anyone ever smoked 15 cigarettes a day? I did that for a while. I can safely say it's a terrible thing for your health. It's not so great for your breath either. So it's to be avoided. So we know how devastating loneliness can be. I imagine we've all had that experience. But in the reading, we just heard that the poet David Whyte seems to be kind of a loneliness optimist. He calls loneliness a privilege, and he says it's the state that births the courage to continue calling the far horizon that answers back. I think he's right in that sense, that loneliness reminds us that we belong, that we are made to be together. Yet loneliness may be a privilege, if you want to consider it that, but it still comes at a terrible, terrible cost. And I think that loneliness can be so crippling that using it as a springboard to deeper growth, that's a big risk. It's a big ask. Loneliness is a scourge in society right now, too. A couple of years ago, I was at a conference at Ghost Ranch in New Mexico. It was held by the group called New Mexico Men's Wellness. It's a group that's been around about 40 years, and they say that their mission is to nurture wellness in mind and body and spirit through sharing life experiences across generations and cultures in safe collaborative settings. It's quite a mouthful, huh? After spending the weekend with them, I'd say it's a bunch of men just trying to do better. At one point, I was in a small breakout group, and we were doing an exercise called Step In, Step Out. And the way it works is the men stand in a circle, and someone makes a declarative statement like, "Step in if you wish your relationship with your dad had been better." And then folks choose to either step in or step back. Sort of look around and see who's there. Towards the end of the exercise, they invited the men present to add their own statements. And I said, step in if you've ever made a terrible decision because you were so lonely. Every man stepped in. Every man. And I bet this applies across all genders. I'm a big believer in massage therapy. I try to get a massage a month when I can afford it. I've been doing that for years. And every massage therapist I ask talks about the men that they work with. And they all say for some of these men, especially older men, massage is the only time that anyone touches them. And the term for this state is called skin hunger or touch starvation. And when we don't get enough physical touch, we can become stressed and anxious, depressed. It can have effects on our immune and digestive system, relating back to the Surgeon General's report. And I think that's why so many of us have cats and dogs and other critters around. They are more than happy to receive our attention. I had a dog that was so insistent on touch that I nicknamed him Mrs. Petmore. And our pets also crack us up, which is awesome and healthy. But the lack of physical connection is an awful thing, and it's just one element of being lonely. To feel lonely is to feel that we are not seen. Do we even exist? It can make us question if we even matter. It's a dark, dark place. And how did we as a society end up being so lonely now? Well, if you're like me, it was as simple as moving. This is 6 years ago, at age 57, to a state 2,000 miles away from my community, to a place where I knew no one. This is when I went to go to serve as minister at First Unitarian in Albuquerque. And 6 months after I got there, the pandemic began. So I learned a lot about loneliness. And I guess we all do, don't we? And the way we live today is just a giant factory constructing loneliness. Capitalism keeps us focused on material goods, keeps us working too much to develop community. More people are working from home, and there are a lot of reasons why working from home can be a good thing, but it does, for some people, limit the interactions for spontaneous meetings, connecting with our coworkers in ways that are not structured by capitalism. It can even create friendships. And let's talk about social media. Social media is an interesting source of loneliness because at least at the surface level, it seems to be about connecting to other people. And many folks have experiences of reconnecting with old friends over Facebook or whatever, but social media can make us lonely. Ever heard of FOMO? FOMO? It's the fear of missing out. On social media, we watch how people we know present the most idealized version of their lives. If their feeds are to be believed, life is just about having these meaningful and wonderful connections with loved ones, flying to Italy, and days of perfect weather. Ugh. When we fall into FOMO, we ask ourselves, why isn't my life like this? To which the answer is actually, nobody's life is like this. But it can still make us feel disconnected, as if our current relationships are not enough. But we don't have to buy into that. In fact, I have a clergy friend who I was talking about about FOMO with, and she says that she has cultivated POMO. And I asked, what is POMO? And she said, the pleasure of missing out. So she's a parent, she's a busy minister, and she finds so much relief in letting go of those expectations. So POMO says, less is more. And I believe it. And social media can create connections, like I said, but sometimes it creates connections that are very shallow or transactional. One researcher calls these empty calorie connections. For when our likes and scrolling become like eating potato chips one after another, standing over the sink. Never done that. I have an old friend, one of my best friends from high school, and we have shared so much, but the only way he connects with me now is by sending me little clips of Beavis and Butthead over Instagram. And I try to ask him like how his new grandchild is going, this threshold moment, and I get like a single word reply, and then back to Beavis and Butthead. So empty calories, it's very unsatisfying, and it makes me feel a little lonely. And when we're lonely, social media can become like a form of methadone, where it dulls our ache for true companionship, but it never delivers the real thing. It's worth considering also how our built spaces contribute to our loneliness. So I grew up on Ponderosa Drive, which is near the corner of Hopkins and Maple, right here in Amherst. And that neighborhood looks a lot like a lot of Amherst. It's rows of split-level ranches built on 1/3 of an acre. And after I graduated from Williamsville East, I left for 30 years and then came back. And at the tail end of my seminary time, I was staying at my childhood house to support my father, who was quite elderly at the time. And returning to that space to live after so long, I noticed that the houses are built just far enough apart that you can ignore your neighbor in the next yard without seeming rude. There's plausible deniability. It's just the right space. Maybe if there's a tree, that really helps. So growing up, I remember never talking across the yards to our neighbors. We'd pull into our garages with the automatic garage opener, close the door behind us, hermetically sealed. There is no danger in that situation of having a conversation with a neighbor. So by the time I'd moved back, I'd been encultured by life in big cities and some small towns where not only did you have to deal with your neighbors, you were happier and safer if you did. So I was a terror to my poor neighbors on Ponderosa. I was always yelling greetings at them across the yards. They're like trying to pretend they didn't see me. And I was like, hey, how about the weather? And I could tell they were unnerved by all this, but they always seemed so shocked that I was confronting them, asking them about the bills or whatever. And I could also talk about how we are obliged to use a car to get anywhere and how that contributes to the loneliness, but I think you're seeing my point, that we live in a structure that really doesn't foster community or friendship. And loneliness has a lot to do with the political moment that we're in right now. Lonely people are more easily sucked into extremist groups because they offer a sense of belonging and identity. If a person just has a vague sense that things are not right, which I think we all have a sense that things are not right, a group like QAnon offers community and meaning and purpose. It creates tribes. We all want to be part of a tribe, right? So Hannah Arendt was a German philosopher who wrote about power and evil, wealth, fascism. She passed in 1975, but she was an astute observer of the whole 20th century before then. And she's the one who coined the term the banality of evil. And Arendt thought that loneliness was an important tool for emerging fascists. When a society has an epidemic of loneliness, it means that there is a lack of a common ground of experience. So clever authoritarians draw from this group of mostly furious people who have nothing in common except contempt for the current order. The thing they have in common is contempt. Does that sound familiar? Loneliness breeds cynicism, which is fertile ground for totalitarianism. And Arendt saw in the 20th century that through the use of isolation and terror, totalitarian regimes created the conditions for loneliness and then appealed to people's loneliness with ideological propaganda. It's the playbook. And I've been thinking lately about the people who had to live under the Vichy government. And if you're not aware, the Vichy government was created when the Nazis took over France. It was based in the city of Vichy, which is why they call it that. And this was a government that explicitly collaborated with the Nazis. And regular people watched with bewilderment as their country became unrecognizable. Some chose to resist. Some were not in a position to do so. And still others welcomed the Nazis with open arms. So for the first two of these categories, the resistors and the people who were unable to resist. They would have if they could have. They experienced the loneliness of losing one's country. Again, sounds familiar, huh? There's a documentary currently on Netflix that I think everybody should watch. It's called Join or Die. Nice dramatic name. It's a severe name, but if you watch it, you'll see why the title is so urgent. It's about the work of Robert Putnam, and you might remember him. He was the Bowling Alone guy. Remember that book? Yeah, and he did research how about since 1960, there's been a sharp and continuous decline in civic engagement. And he defines civic engagement very broadly. To him, it means everything from local politics to church choirs to Elks clubs and, yes, to bowling leagues. So if you go to a bowling alley in Buffalo on a Saturday night, you'll see that it's packed with folks, but people are bowling in their own little trios and pairs, not in leagues. Putnam says that this decline in people doing things in groups leads to a decrease in the degree to which we trust each other. As civic engagement has dropped, so has faith in our government institutions, to the degree that we see the current nihilism, that is our leadership. Now, the documentary was made last year, and Putnam, who is now in his 80s, is lamenting the fact that he's made civic engagement his life work, but over the course of his life, it's only gotten worse, not better. And he's so frustrated by this, and he's like, how could I have gotten this wrong? Why did I fail after working so hard for so many years? And then he has this epiphany. He realized that he has only studied the decline of civic engagement, but not the growth that came before. So remember, he started his work studying the period from 1960 on. He extends his research back 80 years before 1960, and he finds that in 1880, civic engagement was at an all-time low. But then the Gilded Age happened, and people watched as income inequality went through the roof, and governments at all levels became openly corrupt. And that was when people started turning to each other. And they started the Odd Fellows. Ever heard of that group? It's like a sort of a civic, like an Elks Club, and women's groups, and sports leagues. And a funny thing happened. As these groups grew, some of them began to work to make better communities for themselves. And by the 1950s, society felt a lot more coherent. Now, Putnam acknowledges that there were plenty of problems in that age, the 1950s, of high civic engagement. Sexism and racism were still pervasive, very pervasive. Being queer required being closeted for one's own safety. But if one looks at the trajectory of our government since 1960, it's clear that things have gotten worse, more cynical, more self-serving. So loneliness is a national problem, even a political problem. But I want to return our focus to the personal. How do we get less lonely? First, I want to talk about skin hunger and a cool thing that I heard about. I have a friend who coordinates snuggle parties. And these are highly facilitated events where people get together and snuggle in a purely non-sexual way. And my friend tells me that the key is to set boundaries and expectations early and clearly. For example, any touch is limited to the parts of the body that would not be covered if one was wearing a bathing suit. So if you've ever taught in Our Whole Lives the sexuality curriculum or had a child take it, you've probably heard a lot about consent. In a snuggle party, everyone must ask permission and receive a verbal yes before touching another person anywhere. And that's just one of the rules. So it's a place to practice consent in a really low-stakes environment, as well as getting the touch that many people crave, they need. Crave is not enough. We need that touch. So I've never been to one, but I'm really curious. So come to your local UU church to hear the offbeat ideas. Well, we got them for you. In a larger sense, I think the idea behind the Join or Die video is a great place to start. Find a group, show up, take a risk, put yourself out there. Now, I know I'm preaching to the choir here because you're here, but church is a great place for this. And church aside, there's a great app and website called Meetup, where a person can find almost every activity under the sun and connect. A lot of these things they do are free. So check it out, show up, make connections. Takes a little act of courage, but it's a wonderful thing to do. And also, you have to be ready to be disappointed a few times before you find your people. And again, I think many folks here know this already, but doing activism together is a great way to make friends. Some of my closest friends in Buffalo are people that we attended the Trump campaign rally down at the hockey arena in 2016, and we got dragged out. We disrupted it. We got dragged out by the sheriffs. And I am really close with those people, so it's a bonding experience. It will really connect you. So you don't have to go that far, but like you go to a place where people share your values, and you put your shoulder to the wheel, and you develop friendships, and you develop trust, and all the things that we really want from that are the opposite of loneliness. So that's some practical advice, but I also think there's some internal work we need to do here. Maybe there's something about how we think about other people. Things, ideas that maybe we've internalized without realizing we internalize them. I want to share a story from the Catholic monk Thomas Merton. And Merton was living in a monastery in Kentucky. That's a contemplative life. He's mostly in small groups or by himself. And then he has this epiphany, and I want to share it in his own words. This is from his book, Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander. So the quote goes, in Louisville, Kentucky, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all those people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we could not be alien to one another even though we were total strangers. It was like waking from a dream of separateness. This sense of liberation from an illusory difference was such a relief, such a joy to me, that I almost laughed out loud. Now I realize that we all are. And if only everyone could realize this. But it cannot be explained. There is no way of telling people that they're all walking around shining like the sun. They're all walking around shining like the sun. My beloveds, you are all walking around shining like the sun. I hope that you can see that in yourself and in everyone around you. Amen, and blessed be.
I need to take a breath. Our song and response can be found in the Teal Hymnal, 1053, and the words will be projected up front. How could anyone?
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected
We are a generous and thoughtful people, and it has been with gladness that we affirm and promote our hope-filled faith. We support the work of this congregation with our time, our talents, and our treasures. And that includes both pledges and offerings. The offering will now be gratefully received. Thank you to the extra volunteers. We began our service with the lighting of our chalice, and now we extinguish our shared chalice, not to quench the flame, but to return it to individual hearts, strengthened by this time shared together, so that we can share our light in the world. As Phil extinguishes the chalice, please join your voices with mine. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of the community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you, Phil. As our service draws to an end, our service to the world is ready to begin. You'll find many opportunities for growth and service in your order of service and on our website. Everyone is invited to join coffee and conversation, or tea, or water, in the Emerson Room, just through the double doors in the back of the chapel and in the lobby. There's a kid-friendly zone in the back at the window end of the room, so children and caregivers can enjoy the newly renovated playground. And so now, please rise in body of spirit as we sing our closing blessing. Don't forget to twinkle your eyes and share smiles, and then remain standing afterwards for the benediction in the
Go in peace and practice radical love.